He found me with another man, but what he did next shattered me completely.
I never imagined my life would fracture in a moment so quiet it barely made a sound. My name is Marissa Hale. I am 38, and until that evening I believed I understood the limits of consequences. I was wrong. I had been married to Rowan Beckett for 11 years, a man built from patience and routine, the kind of man who never raised his voice and never missed a bill. We were stable, functional, and painfully distant. That distance didn't explode. It thinned, slowly, until I convinced myself it barely existed. Rowan worked long hours in logistics, early mornings, and late returns. I filled my time with a marketing job, gym classes, and too much scrolling. We spoke about groceries, repairs, and obligations, but not about desire. When the silence stretched, I told myself it was normal. Long marriages settle. That's what people say. Then I met Adrian Cole. Adrian wasn't a savior or some reckless fantasy. He was attentive in a way Rowan hadn't been for years. He asked questions and waited for answers. Lunches became conversations. Conversations became drinks. And drinks became an agreement we never spoke aloud. I didn't think of myself as cruel. I thought of myself as lonely. That distinction mattered to me then. The night everything ended was supposed to be simple. Rowan was away on a site inspection, or so I thought. Adrian came over after dinner. We weren't careless, just comfortable in our assumption that comfort equaled safety. When the door opened, there was no shouting, no dramatic gasp. Rowan stood there, keys still in his hand, jacket half zipped, eyes calm in a way that made my stomach drop instantly. He looked at Adrian first, then at me. He didn't ask who he was. He didn't ask why. He took in the room the way a man surveys damage after a storm. Quietly, completely. Adrian froze, muttered something useless, and left without being told. Rowan stepped inside, closed the door, and sat down across from me. I started talking. I don't even remember what I said. Explanations, apologies, panic layered over panic. He listened without interrupting, hands folded, breathing steady. When I finally stopped, he said one sentence. I understand. That was it. No anger. No insults. No threats. He stood, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door. I slept on the couch. The next morning he was gone. His side of the closet was empty. His toothbrush missing. The house felt hollowed out, like something essential had been removed with surgical precision. I texted him paragraphs. He replied with one line. Please communicate through my solicitor. That was when fear arrived. Within days, accounts were separated. Subscriptions logged out. The car insurance transferred. He didn't touch my paycheck or my personal savings, but everything else stopped. Not abruptly, just definitively. I told myself he was being petty, that he was punishing me. The truth was worse. He was detaching. Friends reached out to him. He responded politely and declined discussion. My parents asked what happened. I couldn't find a version that didn't make me sound small. Weeks passed. The house sold faster than I expected. He took what was fair, nothing more. There were no speeches, no ultimatums, no attempts to win me back. I finally saw him in person at a mediation meeting. He looked rested, lighter. He greeted me like an acquaintance, not an enemy. When the mediator asked if he had anything to add, Rowan said, I hope she finds what she's looking for. I realized then that he wasn't shattered. I was. I had expected consequences to look like punishment. Yelling, fighting, a mess I could react to. Instead, he gave me clarity. He didn't compete with another man. He didn't plead for loyalty. He simply removed himself from a situation where he was no longer wanted. Adrian stopped calling after a month. The excitement drained once there was nothing to steal. I was left alone with choices I could no longer blame on anyone else. Rowan never checked back in. He never needed to. He had already closed the door, not in anger, but in self-respect. People think betrayal ends relationships. It doesn't. Indifference does. And the most devastating thing Rowan did wasn't leaving. It was leaving without trying to stop me. That silence didn't just end my marriage. It forced me to finally hear myself, and I didn't like what I heard. In the months that followed, the weight of that realization settled into every part of my routine. Mornings felt longer without his quiet presence moving through the kitchen. Evenings stretched with an unfamiliar echo, reminding me how much of my identity had been built around being chosen. I tried dating again, hoping distraction would dull the regret, but every conversation felt shallow compared to the stability I had dismantled. I replayed that night endlessly, searching for a different outcome, a sentence he could have said that would have given me something to fight against. But Rowan never gave me that gift. His response was final because it wasn't emotional. It was deliberate. He didn't walk away to hurt me. He walked away to preserve himself. Eventually, I understood the lesson buried beneath the pain. Being seen and desired elsewhere hadn't healed my loneliness. It had only exposed it. The man I betrayed had already sensed the distance and accepted the truth before I did. By the time I crossed the line, he had quietly prepared to step away. Now, when people ask what happened to my marriage, I don't blame silence or boredom or mistakes. I say this: I confused attention with connection, and by the time I realized the difference, the man who loved me had already learned how to live without me. Consequences arrived softly, but their impact continues shaping every decision.